innovation, tradition, performance. When you talk about racing, from early day stock car to drag racing to NASCAR, from Daytona to Le Mans, when you talk about racing, you talk about John Holman and Ralph Moody. H.A. Humpy Wheeler perhaps says it best. Holman Moody was to motorsports what the Packers are to the NFL, the Brooklyn Dodgers to baseball, and the Celtics to basketball. Gentlemen, start your engine! Just about everyone in racing agrees that they were an unlikely pair. But like any good marriage, for better or for worse, just about everyone agrees that the Holman-Moody combination was a perfect match, made in racing heaven. John Holman was born in 1918 in Nashville, Tennessee, but grew up in California. Hooked on racing from an early age, and he was passionate about trucks, cars, parts, and building the perfect machine. Holman knew machines from the inside out, what worked and what didn't. He also knew people in relationships, what worked and what didn't. Ralph Moody was born in 1917 in Hawthorne, Massachusetts. In the early 1930s, despite his parents' disapproval, Moody built and drove a Model T Ford with a 2x4 wooden chassis. Later, he'd race his number 28 car on nights and weekends while operating repair shops during the day. Number 28 inspired many drivers, including one child at the Hialeah, Florida racetrack. That child was Bobby Allison. The Holman-Moody duo came together in the mid-1950s. When it became clear that Ford was getting off the racetrack, John and Ralph formed the Holman-Moody partnership in 1957. Moody refinanced his airplane, and Ford accepted their $12,000 bid for Ford's surplus race equipment. Holman-Moody expanded rapidly and set up operations on the grounds of Charlotte Douglas Airport. 4 buildings provided space for fabrication, engine building, preparation, and storage. The location also provided occasional use of the runway. Energized and passionate, Holman and Moody kept growing, to include major part sales production. Holman-Moody was performance-driven, on and off the racetrack. They fielded stock car teams for Glenn Fireball Roberts, Fred Lorenzen, Nelson Stacy, and many more, including David Pearson, the 1968 and 69 NASCAR Grand National Champion. From July 14, 1957 at Lehigh, Arkansas, to January 21, 1974 at Riverside, California, 39 drivers combined for 366 races, 83 poles, 93 victories, and 2 championships. But the success of Holman-Moody is measured beyond the checkered flag. What they fielded was as important as who. Holman-Moody developed the first stock car chassis. They introduced the roll cage and driver seat support for added driver protection and safety. Their 65 Galaxy was a classic and included a single overhead cam 427 engine. They made extraordinary advances to shocks, to brakes, and accessories. There was the Challenger 1, 2, and 3, Ford Falcons and drag racing, the Can-Am. But their signature in racing history was, and still is, the GT40. The GT40 stood a mere 40 inches tall, but for most it seems larger than life, thanks in part to the Ford-Ferrari feud, but mostly to Holman-Moody, their passion, and their racing magic. It was no secret that Ford wanted to beat Ferrari on the racetrack. But how? Taking an English prototype, Holman-Moody created the GT40 and its unique features, including rear aerodynamics, a giant 427 cubic inch 4-barrel V8 engine, a new device called a spoiler, the driver harnesses, fuel cells, a 120-pound roll cage, the GT40 look with custom details. Holman-Moody's signature was on the GT40: style, performance, quality. The GT40 signature was on the racetrack. It debuted in the 1966 Daytona 24-hour race. Results: a 1-2-3 Ford finish. At the 1966 Sebring 12-hour race. Results: 1-2-3 Ford finish. And then in Europe at the 1966 24 Hours of Le Mans, 1-2-3 Ford finish. The GT40, only 40 inches tall, reached great heights with quality, innovation, tradition, performance, just like Holman-Moody. And it continues today at Holman-Moody with performance parts, intake manifolds, racing theme cams, valve cover and air cleaners, complete line of custom parts, and services. Quality, innovation, tradition, performance. That's racing. That's Holman-Moody.